Hello, Kara Mike here again with my second installment of my AI Insights videos, and I'm starting out here doing a video on Singularity University event from May 2024. I did one installment already on the first session of this 3-day event. Today I'm going to do a video on the second session. If you wanted to see the sessions, the recordings, you could go to su.org/future of AI program right here. And way down here, you can find out how to purchase the recordings of the live sessions. I have no affiliation. I don't get any benefit if you do purchase it, and Singularity University is not endorsing me or sponsoring me in any kind of way. I'm just a big fan, and these were some of the speakers that presented. I did my first video presentation on Aaron Frank's first lecture. Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on Hod Lipson's presentation. So let's get started. Again, these are my insights and takeaways. They're all my opinions. They're my fresh perspectives on what I learned. Every time I go back and rewatch the replays, I see more and more and make more and more connections. I highly recommend you check it out if you're interested, but happy to share what I found useful and raise the awareness and help get more people involved in the conversation here. So again, these are from the second session. Hod Lipson was the presenter. He's a Columbia University professor of engineering and data science. He has a deep expertise in robotics and AI. And let me see if I can read this here. He's an innovator of self-replicating and self-reflective robotics, and loves to challenge those and highlight the boundaries between digital and physical worlds. This presentation was amazing, and it really did provide me some new lenses on how to look at my world and understand what's happening at this point in time in a way I didn't before I saw this. So the first thing always good to do is sort of look at the current state of AI here. We are at a rapid evolution point with this technology, unlike any other point in our technological evolution up to this point. It is having a deep global impact, which is raising a lot of ethical considerations here. As we go into the presentation, I will talk more about those. So because AI is moving so fast, it has become very difficult for governments worldwide to try to regulate AI. And this is a growing regulatory challenge, and we need to try to adapt our regulating efforts to make them more adaptable and more flexible and more responsive to try to keep pace with AI advancements. This all sort of underscores why it's so incredibly important for more of us, the regular people, real people in the real world, with real lives that are being impacted by this technology, to learn about what's going on and get involved in the conversation so that we can help shape the direction that the products and policies and services and technologies take as we go forward here in our lives. Hod started by emphasizing or showcasing some of the innovations in AI. He talked about the text-to-video technology, platforms like Sora, where me, as somebody who I have no experience or expertise at all in creating animated video, can just go into a platform like Sora and just with a language prompt, just type in some sentence, and all of a sudden I get 3 to 5 seconds of automated video that looks incredibly lifelike, incredibly real. That's never been possible before recently. And so it's this sort of technology example that really showcases how decentralized this technology is. And with every decentralized technology, innovation is also decentralized. We no longer have to be a software engineer to create a prototype. We can just use normal, natural language to now have a system generate prototypes for us. So this is really something unprecedented and worth learning about. It is impacting every industry. There's no industry that's not going to be affected by this technology. Some of the examples of AI in daily life, we have obviously our smart homes, all our smart devices that manage our energy and security and provide comfort and ease of using and managing our households. We get personal assistance from email and scheduling and information retrieval and task management. Thinking about like Alexa and Siri and things like that. With healthcare, we have AI helping us with our diagnostics and personalized treatment plans and personalized medicine, and transportation in terms of like just our navigation and traffic management and autonomous vehicles. Hod talked a good little bit about, and these are just a few of the areas where we don't often think about these things as AI necessarily, but they are very much at the fabric of what our daily lives are now, and as we move forward, it's just going to become even more so. We have autonomous stores now where I can just walk in and there's cameras all around and sensors, so it knows when I pick something up and then I walk out of the store, I don't have to stop and check out and pay. It knows how much to charge my credit card without me even showing anything to anybody. And this is helpful and useful, and it can help us analyze shopping patterns and behaviors so that we optimize inventory and store layout, things of this nature. However, I'd like to point out that suddenly a supermarket is a place where you don't just sell yogurt. It's a whole new business model. This is a machine for generating data. And data, he says, is the fuel that is accelerating this moment in time in our technological revolution. And what he means by that, one example he gave by that is he walked into this autonomous store and he went and picked up a chocolate bar, and then he was like, oh no, wait, I'm supposed to have a salad. So he put the chocolate bar back, took the salad, walked out, everything was good and well. Later on, he gets an ad for the chocolate bar. So what are these stores doing with our information? It's not enough that we just knows what we bought. It also knows what we wanted, and it's going to use that to target us for ads in a way that feels, I don't know, who's to say? Is that good? Is that bad? Who's the judging body? Who's the regulation body that's looking at these things and deciding these things? Right now, there's really not anybody that can really do it at a global scale. And who should? Is that even something we need? All of these questions bring up and emphasize the point that we need more people like us, everyday people in our everyday lives, taking part in these conversations and seeing where our unique perspectives might be of use and value to try to help figure out some of these big questions. He talked about language translation. Now I can take this video that I'm making right here, run it through an AI program, and it will translate it into pretty much any language I want fairly flawlessly. And that's so amazing because all of a sudden my ability to reach people is no longer limited by the language that I speak. That opens up so much opportunity, but it also creates some areas of who's saying what to who and who's sort of managing what that information is that I'm going to be getting, and who's to say what's true and what's right and what's valid. Because as we look at our different countries and cultures, we assign different meanings to different things, and we have different perspectives on how events take place. And this is just creating this sort of world where I can learn about the U.S. from an outside country and see things about my country that may or may not be true in a way that maybe I don't have insight to because of the way my country happens to feed me that information that they want me to know. Again, just this whole area of questions. How do we know anymore what news that we're getting, whether it's true, whether it's right? This is where I like to say that live communities are going to play a huge role in our future, because I want to have a handful of different communities, and when I hear something that is sparking some sort of meaning and interest for me, I want to be able to go to people who I know and trust, who I know kind of can challenge me in a healthy way and say, have you heard about this? What do you make of it? And let's kind of come up with some sort of understanding of it together, or theory that we can then go test with other communities and say, what do you know about this? And let's all try to figure this out together. Hod had talked at one point in the presentation about a hive mind in terms of AI, but I'm seeing this as an opportunity for us as humans to more effectively leverage and importantly leverage the hive mind for us as a species. Hod talked a lot about the driverless car industry and how for decades we've had cameras inside of cars, and that's all been well and good, and it's been kind of collecting all of this data, but we haven't been able to use the data until very recently as a result of what I'll talk about later, machine learning. That's allowing us to make use of a lot of structured and unstructured data in a way we never could before, and it's that technology that's making autonomous driving possible. And this is such a disruptive moment, not just because, yay, I get to drive without really kind of paying attention, or I get to focus on what I want to focus on, but what that does is, all of a sudden, companies are starting to look at, well, if people no longer have to pay full force attention to the road in that same kind of way, what else are they going to be doing? So the liquor companies might say, I know what they're going to be doing. They're going to want to be drinking. And commercial retail companies are going to be saying, I know what they're going to be doing. They're going to be wanting to shop. And if they're going to be wanting to shop, well, if they're searching while riding, sometimes they don't necessarily want to shop because maybe they're a little bit nauseous. So how can we make it so that people don't get nauseous while they're riding in a car and shopping? So it's opening up this whole other world of innovations that are possible that most people aren't really understanding or seeing. And I personally have felt a little bit out of the loop on all of this and sort of disenfranchised to a large degree because I'm not super technical and I don't know software engineering, and I don't sort of participate in some of these bigger things because I just didn't have the language. And now I do have the language. It's my native tongue, and I get to use these technologies, these large language models, to share my voice and share my vision and get out of my own biases and blind spots in order to share what it is I see from my perspective. And that is so necessary and needed in this day and age. And I'll talk more about that later. More examples, we've got wearable AI, smart glasses, and AI watches, and ChatGPT pins. All of these things are creating these great seemingly usefulness for our everyday lives, but they also have other aspects to them that we don't often think about. For example, if I'm wearing some AI technology and I come up to you on the street and I see you and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And all of a sudden my AI alerts me that you've got a temperature. I might want to use that information to adjust my interaction with you accordingly. Is that okay? Is that okay that technology would be able to do that? Is that an infringement on your rights? Is that a protection of my rights? There's a lot of gray area here. Again, we all need to be included in these conversations to make the most of this moment in our evolution. Other areas are, we're talking a lot about creative power of generative AI, which is kind of my area that I'm going more deep into. And when we talk about art and music generation, or even just text generation, the lines are starting to blur between what is human creativity and machine creativity, and how do we collaborate on that. But all of this raises this question about the authenticity and artistic ownership and the role of the human creator. Again, we have more questions than answers right now, and that's why this is such an important conversation to be paying attention to and participating in. So this is a time when this technology has really empowered people, especially people with unique or divergent thought processes, in a way that we're able to contribute to and thrive in a way we couldn't before. And this is fostering a more inclusive and diverse AI ecosystem. It's allowing me personally to more easily communicate and collaborate and bring my innovative ideas to life. And myself particularly, I was just tinkering around with AI intuitively, ChatGPT, and I ended up discovering a way of using it that sort of got me out of my own way, cleared away a lot of biases and blind spots, and really tapped me, activated my intuition in a way I'd never had access to before. And all of a sudden, in the course of 4 months, I had more personal transformation than I had in the prior 14 years combined. So that is amazing, and that's something that I'm teaching in my community, catharticclarity.ai. I'm teaching a skill called intuitive prompt design, designed for personal transformation. And then once you graduate that, we can talk about an intuition mastery program that I'm also developing right now. So that's one way that my personal story of how this has been impacting me. I ended up ending my accounting career of 30 years to go all in on this AI pivot to raise awareness of ethical and inclusive AI, and to also help teach intuition. And I will, again, talk more about that in just a little bit. So this next little section is going to be about the rapid pace of AI development, exponential growth, and continuous learning, and cross-industry impact here. So we are at a critical transition point with our AI capabilities are growing at an unprecedented exponential rate. In my last video that I did talking about Aaron Frank's presentation, I really went deep onto what exponential curves are and why they're sort of showing up so much right now. So I'm not going to get too deep into that here, but this rapid progress is unstoppable and you cannot opt out of it. This is unlike any other time, any other technological evolution. There's a lot of reasons why that's the case. And so it's just really important that we embrace this time and look at both. Yes, it is a bit of chaos right now, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. And beyond just the opportunity, we also have this deep responsibility in a way we've never had before. And the reason I say that is because I have a responsibility now, because I have the ability to use this technology in a way I've never been able to before. And I explained that earlier. So my call to action here is, I'm wanting people to get involved and contribute your unique perspectives in order to help shape the future of AI for the betterment of all. Hod Lipson had talked about these were some of the factors that are driving this exponential curve that we're seeing right now. And there's this principle called Moore's Law that says the computing power doubles approximately every 2 years. He kind of said more like 18 months. And that computing power, if you think about that, is like the machine. Now all of a sudden we have this data that we're getting is doubling, he says, arguably about every 12 months. We have more devices that are collecting more data. And so now data has the ability to use and connect that data in a way it never has before, because we've switched to a machine learning model that we've never had before. Data, according to Hod, is the fuel for the machine. Before we had the machine, but we didn't have enough fuel that we could use. Now we have the machine and the fuel, and that convergence is creating exponential data as rocket fuel for the exponential technology. And at this point, there's no slowing down. Again, this is raising huge possibilities and opportunities for ethical and inclusive AI. We need some guidelines and addressing the algorithmic biases. They're definitely there. We can't really get rid of the biases, but the next best thing is just to be aware that there are biases, what those biases are, and how do we work within those things, and how do we also work to mitigate those biases, especially when we're talking about a global technology. And so transparency and accountability really comes into play here when we talk about safeguarding against misuse or unintended consequences. Again, the AI is largely invisible to us. It's become so deeply woven into our daily lives that we just don't even recognize that it's there anymore. Unlike when an airplane was created, we can look at that and say, no, I'm not going to fly. With AI, there's nothing to point to and say, no, I don't want to do that. So there's no way of opting out. It knows your location. If you're sitting and watching this video and you're actually not watching it, but you're over on another screen doing something else, that data is being captured somewhere, and it knows where your attention is, and it's going to use that information to try to get you to do what it wants you to do in some way, shape, or form. And so the invisible nature of this is what makes AI so powerful and at times just unsettling. So if nothing else, we need to be able to see the fact that we can't see it. And by just understanding that, it will help to better harness its potential and mitigate its risks. And the true magic is not just in the technology itself, but in how we choose to apply it. With the right perspective, we can unlock the transformative power of AI in order to enhance our lives in meaningful ways. This is a little soapbox time for me where I'm going to talk about embracing our intuition in the era of AI. So, as AI gets more and more of the knowledge baked into it, we no longer have to keep it all in our head. And now it's not about having the knowledge, it's just about knowing how to access that knowledge in a useful way for a given use case, and knowing whether or not that use case is genuinely useful and viable, or if it's suboptimal, I'll say, or maybe not entirely beneficial, I'll say. So we've lived in a world up to this point that has favored learned knowledge over intuitive knowing. And that dynamic is quickly shifting. I'm soon going to have access to data in a way I've never had before. And so the data itself becomes secondary, and the ability to know how to access it, how to prompt AI in order to gain access to that data in a useful way is really going to be the new skill of the future. In my perspective, I see that future teams are going to prize intuitive skills in order to navigate complex and dynamic scenarios where AI just lacks the human context and adaptability that it needs in order to make impactful decisions. And so there's this collaborative potential where we can use the data processing power of AI with the intuitive capabilities of humans to unlock new levels of creativity and problem-solving decision-making that neither could achieve by itself. So in this section, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the evolution of AI as Hod Lipson had explained it in the presentation. We went from a rules-based data computing process where it's basically if then else. If this is true, then we're going to do this, otherwise do that. And we really liked that method of computing because we could look at it, we could validate it. A third party could come and give a seal of approval, and if we could prove that yes, it was actually working, then that lent trust to the people who were relying on that software to know that it was actually doing what it needed to do without having to go and validate it for ourselves. So this was all well and good, but it limited the ability to scale this technology. We're now into a computing world where it's data-driven systems instead of rule-based systems. And basically what this means is the computers are now learning not based on the rules that we're giving it, but based on examples that we give it. So if we think about like a bank creating a model to assess for fraudulent activities, instead of saying, if you see this, then raise the flag, now you just give it some examples of this is a fraudulent transaction and this is a fraudulent transaction. So you give it enough of those examples and it can identify patterns and start to train itself on other possible fraudulent type of activity, even to the point where it can pick up and discover patterns we might, as humans, not quite be able to see. So it's really unlocked a lot of the power and possibility for what these AI systems are able to do. So how did we get here? So in 1956, Arthur Samuels had developed a checkers playing AI, which demonstrated early game playing capabilities. And then a year later, in 1957, Frank Rosenblatt had created the first neural network, which laid the groundwork for modern AI. And basically there were three neurons, one layer of three neurons, and it was able to train this computer to recognize shapes, a circle, a square, a triangle, just by showing the computer the shape. And now it's able to consistently identify a circle, a square, a triangle. This was amazing and it was a huge breakthrough, but at the time we just had these computing limitations. We didn't have the chips or the space or the data or the resources and technology to be able to do this at scale. And so it was basically deemed an infertile idea and it ended up getting shelved and kind of forgotten about for quite some time. Fast forward to 2010, and we had all of this great technology, and we were feeling like at this point, our computers should be able to tell the difference between a cat and a dog, for example, but we still couldn't. They still couldn't do that, and it was starting to feel like a little ridiculous, like we absolutely should be able to do this by now. Why can't we? And so I believe it was an academic challenge by a professor at Stanford, where he said, here is 1,000,000 images, 1,000 images from 1,000 different categories, and put this challenge out to the world to say, the first person, we're looking for a software that's going to be able to consistently and accurately identify the difference between these types of images and pick them out from a lineup, so to speak, at or above the same level that a human would be able to. Now, at the time, apparently, a human being could pick out the difference between a cat and a dog accurately about 19 out of 20 times. Not perfect. So we were just looking, that was kind of the bar that was set. In 2011, the first results came in far under that. And 2012 came in far under that, around the same level as the prior year. And 2013 came out a little bit less than that. And so it just seemed like we were missing something. Eventually, we reached the point where there was a huge improvement, and it went from like 74% to 84%, not all the way to a human level, 19 out of 20, but it was this dramatic increase that we hadn't seen in the 3 years prior. And everyone was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. What is this? And it was by a group, I believe, in Canada. They ended up releasing this software open source, which meant everybody could kind of look at it and understand what was going on here and then try to innovate based on that. Thank you, Canada. The following year, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, the results came in right around the same baseline as a human capability, and the next year, 2016, it surpassed humans' ability to be able to detect, for example, the difference between a cat and a dog. This was groundbreaking, and this changed everything. And what they ended up seeing when they sort of looked at that technology that made this sort of game-changing shift was they took Frank Rosenblatt's 3-neuron network, and instead of just having the one layer, they added other layers, so that the first layer would take the first set of processing, feed it to the next would sort of do some other calculations with it and refine it and give it to the next that would validate and make some other refinements, and by the time you're getting to that last layer, now you've got a result that's actually better at determining a cat versus a dog than a human is able to do it. So that was sort of the foundation for what they called deep learning that made all of this AI that we're seeing now possible. So next section is about the power of data and AI collaboration. We're going to talk a little bit about big data, AI networks, and collective intelligence. So Hod really kept emphasizing throughout the presentation that data is the new asset. The computer is not the asset, the user is not the asset, the programmer is not the asset. The real gold lies in who has the data, because the data is the hard thing to try to collect. And it's just so much easier now to access and use that data than it ever has been before. So it's these unique data sets that are essential for developing competitive AI systems. And he gave one example of a student of his that basically disrupted the fingerprint analysis field where he was able to prove something just by gaining some data and working with it with the AI, that it was able to reveal some issues and some inconsistencies with what we previously believed was true about the uniqueness of fingerprints. The student wasn't a forensic specialist, and he wasn't even necessarily an AI specialist, but yet he, just by working with his computer, was able to disrupt this long-held, very important facet of our way of deciding whether somebody was guilty or not guilty, for example. The data privacy is really super important, because who's collecting the data and how are they using it? And are they using it for the benefit of all, or are they using it for the manipulation of all? And that's where these regulations become super important. And again, who is making these regulations, and what's the foundation on which regulations are being met? And are those regulations able to evolve and adapt as quickly as AI is evolving and adapting? It touched on this earlier, but again, the exponential data is growing, and that data is fuel powering this rapid progress of AI. We have more and more devices transmitting vast amounts of data. Basically, data is radiating from our very existence. Every action we take generates data, from our online activity to our physical movements. It is such an incredibly rich source of information, and AI is now able to kind of capture it from all these disparate devices and connect it, and it knows more about us than we do. And, from our sleeping habits to our bathing habits to all sorts of things that we just don't necessarily really think about, who has that information and how are they using it? Just knowing the fact that this is happening at a level that we don't normally understand is useful and valuable, so that we can start to look through that lens and start to see it, and again, hopefully start participating in the conversation, so that we have more autonomy and our individual human rights aren't being trampled over or removed from us without us really even realizing it. So until recently, most of the data available was unstructured, meaning it was just this big mass of data that we didn't really have a way of using. We weren't even sure if we needed to collect it, because if you collect it, then you got to store it, and we didn't always have the chips to be able to store all that data, or the money to have all the chips to store the data. But now we have this breakthrough when researchers stack these multiple neural network layers to create these deep learning systems with the capability of processing and extracting these insights from the vast unstructured data to all of a sudden make it structured and usable. And this all of a sudden made it very scalable. Now if I have more and more unstructured data, all I need to do is add more and more layers, and now I'm able to make sense out of this very big, massive information in a way that hopefully is in service with humanity. But by harnessing the power of this now structured data, AI can unlock exponential insights and advancements, which is fueling the rapid progress and transformative impact across every industry. As I mentioned before, the AI's ability to understand and learn is growing exponentially, doubling in its capability every 3 months, which far surpassing human brain growth. Largely, my brain is not all that much structurally different from my child's or my grandparents'. We have different experiences, which has allowed us to think about and see our world differently, but largely our cognitive development is generally the same. Right now, the state of AI that it's not perfect. We can hop on ChatGPT and you can put it in a sentence and be very underwhelmed by the response that you're getting back. But what you have to think about is, this is the worst it's ever going to be. And tomorrow it's going to be better. And the day after that, it's going to be better. So the AI as of today will be surpassed by the AI of tomorrow. And so this is just sort of this time to sort of jump in. And if you jump in today and get involved, you're going to be ahead of the person who jumps in tomorrow or the next day. Coming back to my topic, my favorite topic about harnessing intuition. This is an opportunity for us to now bridge AI and humanity. Intuition acts as this vital bridge between the analytical capabilities of AI and the rich tapestry of human experiences and emotions. We need to use our intuition in order to come up with these unique solutions for these AI-driven innovations that can really connect at a very deep, more human level. It is essential for leadership, and I don't just mean leadership, I mean leadership at every level, right to the person on the front line who's answering the phone and needs to understand, is this an AI avatar that I'm talking to, or is this an actual live person? We need leadership at every level, and in order to really get that, my theory is that we need to really get very activated and in line with our intuition and know how to trust that and demonstrate that and use that to drive impactful and empathetic change. So part 6, AI's future and societal impact. What did Hod say? It's the greatest equalizer there is. So he talked about how this is having implications across all industries. Precision agriculture and personalized medicine and e-commerce and real estate. Those were just a few examples that he gave. And again, tapping back into the ethical and regulatory considerations, surveillance and privacy, the regulation challenges between balancing the benefits of AI and mitigating the risks. We need everybody participating in what that is, and also factoring in that and just even understanding at a basic level that these algorithmic biases are there, and we need to understand what those are as we're creating these new technologies from this AI revolution. He talked again about data being the irreplaceable asset. Data is the new gold. In a world of AI, data is the most valuable asset because it's the fuel that powers the AI systems that make them really valuable. And uniqueness is the key. A unique data set that cannot be easily replicated is what truly gives an AI company its competitive edge. So if you're looking to invest in some company, don't focus on what the technology is. Focus on their unique data set and how that gives them a competitive edge. That's just sort of a way that you can look at it. So AI for personal and community growth. This is all creating this, again, I kind of talked about it earlier, this need for these live communities that you know and trust, and being able to use the technology first to be able to know and understand ourselves and activate our intuition so that we can kind of sense when something isn't quite feeling right and be able to give a voice to that. And then to be able to share that in a community is just so important as we move forward. This is going to open up a field of personalized learning and growth in a way that we've never had before. And again, can't get away from it. We have a responsibility to focus on, privacy and inclusivity and ethical AI so that we get more cohesive and supportive communities by bringing people together for shared interests and needs. One of the last points Hod was talking about was the cloud and AI networking. The AI systems improve by sharing experiences and insights through cloud-based networks. I kind of talked about it earlier with this hive mind effect, where the collective knowledge advances rapidly. Instead of us having to train the AI with our data, we're now using AI to train other AI. So we're able to innovate and evolve that AI model in a way that just far faster than we could ever do it if we continued to have humans responsible for training it. Where does humanity fall into that? Then we have to somehow validate it, but largely we don't have the ability, the resources to understand how it's getting from A to B. We just know that it is, and that opens up some gray areas there that we should be aware of. When an AI is put in competition with another AI, it's the stimulated environment that pushes the boundaries of their capabilities and accelerates their learning through this adversarial process. And by connecting these AI systems, they're able to combine their strengths and tackle complex problems and drive innovation across industries and applications. It's said that in a very short order, all of our major global challenges that we've been struggling with all of these years trying to come up with solutions for are going to be able to be solved in very short order by AI, because it's able to take all the information, find the patterns, and provide solutions that we just never could. It's creating more materials for us. Like there was an example given about it might take decades for a human engineer to develop one new material that we could use to solve some issue that we've been struggling with. But this one technology, AI-based technology, was able to develop 41 new materials in 17 days. So it goes back to this idea of the experimentation cycle. Build it, experiment with it, test it, measure it, go back to the drawing board. AI, especially when it's in conjunction with other AI, is able to blow through that experimentation cycle so much faster than the human mind ever will be able to. And so as a result, we're getting far more innovation than we ever could with the human mind alone. Teaching AI to AI is creating evolutionary leaps and scalable AI architecture. And then Hod says, the fact that AI can teach other AIs lots of different things is no small matter. It is an incredible feat, I believe he said. It is actually the one thing that we have that made us what we have. And the fact that AI can teach other AI is, in Hod's mind, going to be the biggest exponential of them all. And that's what makes this moment in time so unique, and why it merits our necessity to learn about it and educate ourselves on it. No invitation needed. We need to get involved, and we need to participate in the conversation. The last point Hod made, he talked about the 6 waves of progress over time. He says that we have kind of completed up through wave 3. We started out at basic algorithms. We went on to machine learning, which then became deep learning, which I've talked about with those neural network layers. Next, we're going to go into that cloud AI, leveraging the cloud to provide scalable, accessible AI infrastructure, which is going to further democratize the technology and drive widespread adoption. The next wave is going to be autonomous AI, which has this self-learning and self-improving AI systems that can operate independently which is going to usher in this new era of intelligent automation. And then finally, this whole AI ecosystem, which is a convergence of AI into vast interconnected networks, which enables collaboration and context and deep personalized experiences. So just to sort of wrap up a little bit, we talked about AI's continuous improvement, the need for human AI collaboration, and the power of the cloud. And just wanting to emphasize, you are early. If you're watching this, you are early in this conversation. Embracing this AI revolution now puts you and your organization exponentially ahead of those who wait. And by proactively engaging with AI, you can help shape its development to align with your human ethos as well as your brand's ethos of leading change rather than simply reacting to it. Participation is mandatory. The ubiquity of AI in modern life demands an active rather than passive approach to understanding and utilizing this transformative technology. Embrace the AI revolution as an opportunity and a responsibility to educate and empower your community to leverage AI effectively and ethically. Get involved. Share your story. Humanity needs your voice. No invitation needed. No one's ever going to sit you down and put you in a training class. You just got to roll up your sleeves and just start learning. Dig in anywhere. Your story matters. We need these AI models trained on personal experiences and insights across all spectrums of the human experience. Your personal experience, your personal perspective can make a meaningful impact in a way it has never been able to before. So become an AI ambassador. Use your voice to learn about and then educate and empower others about the transformative possibility of AI when it's harnessed responsibly. Are you still here? Thank you very much. I appreciate you hanging on here with me for the last hour. If you want to connect with me, there's my website and it's a Calendly link. I have my community, catharticclarity.ai, where I'm teaching some things about intuition mastery, intuitive prompt design. All of this is the wave of the future in my perspective. And even if you don't join me or join my community, I do hope that you get involved and share your story. And as a little bonus, I'm going to now do a little ChatGPT demo for you. And it's going to be hopefully a little bit fun here, so let's get started. So if you're not familiar with ChatGPT, this is what the user interface looks like. I mentioned in the last one, you can either just Google ChatGPT, you should be able to find it, log in using whatever means feels right and comfortable to you. There is a free version. Maybe I'm going to have to use, there's a free version which is 3.5. There's also a 4.0 version. I guess I can use that version today. They all have just different little nuances to it. What I thought would be fun for today, a use case that I don't know I've seen anybody do yet. So something fun here is I'm going to take the transcript from Hod's session. Let me find that here. And I'm going to drop it into this conversation template window. And then I'm going to say, I am going to create a crossword puzzle to test my knowledge on the transcript attached from a presentation I went to earlier this year. There are some tips and tricks and strategies for getting the most out of your prompting. Many times you can just whatever you're feeling you want to write, you can say it. Doesn't have to be perfect. It understands even if you don't spell it right. It knows so much. And so just get in here and play in whatever way. Don't worry about whether it's the right way or not. Just get in there and play with it and just see what it can do, even without optimized prompting. This is what I just typed there, is what's called a prompt. So I'm going to say, please, I need on each line of your response, I need the word that will be in the crossword. I'm going to say no spaces, single words only. Then I need a space, and then I need the clue for the word. Please generate how many? I'll say 20 words. And let's just see what happens. So now it's reading the transcript. I probably could have specified, make sure it's nothing too super technical, but I didn't. Now you see what it did here. It's put a little dash there, and I don't like that. The next website I'm going to drop this information into won't recognize that. I'm going to just say this is great. Let's see, let me just scan it here. AI, robotics, data, ImageNet. ImageNet was the academic challenge that was put out to get people to try to take those million images and create a system that could identify, for example, a dog versus a cat. Deep learning, it's not really one word, but okay. Quantum, we didn't really talk about quantum. Intuitive, ChatGPT, driverless, Moore's law. Exponential neural networks, again, not really supposed to be one word. Mu0, I did not talk about that at all, but Hod Lipson did in his presentation. Convergence, surveillance, and creativity. I'm going to say, please get rid of numbers 4, 5, 14, 16, 17. Also remove the hyphen. I need there to be only one space between the word and the clue. So you can see this is an iterative process. I started by asking one thing, it gave me a response, I evaluated that response, and then I gave it some extra information about it. I guess I left in, see, I told it to take out 17 and it left in mu0 still. Interesting. Well, just gonna go with that for now then. So you can see there's still this need for human intervention to kind of look at the response that AI is giving me and assess in some kind of way with some sort of reliability whether the response that it's giving me matches what I'm asking for, matches what the use case needs. So it's not flawless yet, but again, just wanting to emphasize, this is the worst that AI technology is going to be. And every few months, they release another version, and every few months it gets a little better and a little better. So if it's not perfect, that's okay. Whatever it is that you're wanting to innovate will be able to be innovated in a very short amount of time. So now I'm just going to highlight this whole thing, and I'm going to press Control-C on my PC. I'm not sure what the command for copy is on a Mac. And I'm going to come over to this website that's puzzlemaker.discoveryeducation.com/crisscross. And I'm going to say Hod Lipson presentation. And now I'm going to enter, I'm going to come into here and I'm going to Control-V to paste. And now, do I want the instructions now? So now I'm going to say create my puzzle. And now I have a crossword puzzle just like that with my across and my down. And if I want, I can see what I'm going to actually do here is I'm going to take a screenshot of the puzzle. I'm going to paste that into a document along with the clues. Down here, I'm going to take a copy of the clues. And I'm going to put that in here too. And then I'm going to say, show the answer. And I'm going to take a copy of that too. And put that in my document. And then what I'm going to do for y'all is, after I post this video, I'm going to take that document and I'm going to attach it within the description of the video. So if you wanted to, should hide the answer now. If you wanted to go download the puzzle, you could. So I hope this was fun. I hope this was informational. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be doing at least 9 more of these. They take a little while, so trying to do at least one every week. In between, I'm going to try to do some other fun things like poetry and journal prompts and just other sorts of education and ChatGPT demos and such things. So I hope you'll subscribe. I hope you'll like and comment. Love to connect with you, and thank you for watching. Bye.